just so grateful that I have a voice to record with. So, again, welcome. My name is Nancy Marco, and I'm the founder of the free online community. And I'm going to facilitate our chat today the best I can with my voice that's coming back. So, I first really want to just thank you all for being here, for being part of the community. And my apologies that we don't have time to do introductions for everybody, but we will have time at the end for you to share and ask questions. We are at point 1 with our journey. We started with the head center and the essential quality at 5 of consciousness, at 6 awakeness, at 7 presence. We're going to do a little centering to bring us back there. And then at point 8, we looked at vulnerability. At point 9, inclusion. And today, the quality is around acceptance. And that's what point 1 brings us. So, with that, let's find our meditative posture. So, everyone is different. This is an Eastern style invitation. If that is not for you, find what works for you. Maybe you do a little doodling, or maybe you walk around your room and feel your feet on the floor. That's the first invitation, to come in and down into the body, to feel the feet on the floor, your seat in the chair, and to bring awareness to how your body is right now. To notice the breath inside the body, the inhale and the exhale. And to use that inhale to get a little taller, to make space inside of you. And then keeping that space to use the exhale to release any resistance, any tension. So the other day, keep going back to the theosophical discussion, we talked about the importance of being in the body. And those that came in late, Lynn was mentioning how the distractions that we have today, especially with our devices and our cell phone, really keep us detached from our body and from our senses. She was talking about putting your phone away when you're eating so that you can taste your food, so that you can feel the sensation in your body of getting full, of being satiated. So important to come in and down. Maybe you let your eyes close. Maybe you hazy them. Maybe you lay your hands palms down in a mudra that brings you in and down. And as you come in and down, notice the breath. Where are you breathing? And then direct the breath in and out through the nostrils, slowing it down. Noticing how it can enhance your focus. Release your tension. You hear. Help you to surrender into that vulnerability, into that place of inclusion, including yourself, including others, really honoring the diversity among us. And coming into point 1, the acceptance. The acceptance we talked about a lot at point 8 and 9, really brings home this awareness of choice, not a rigidity, but a flexibility of choice. Maybe just for a second, bring your hands across that belly with the pinkies reaching towards the pubic bone and the thumbs reaching towards the belly button, with the shoulders relaxed and the crown tall. And connect with this body center of intelligence that includes all your parts and all your pieces. Feel right here, right now, with your breath in this moment. And as you sense that presence, that release of distractions, bring your hands into a prayer mudra, touching the heels, the mounds, and the fingertips. And let your attention float up your spine to that space behind your eyes and between your ears. And using the energy of the mudra, pressing the hands together, feel the two hemispheres of your mind, your logic, your creativity softening, melting together, integrating together, so that you can release any thoughts that you've become, any thoughts that you've gotten lost in. Sit in the seat at the center of your head of the observer, of the part of you that is witnessing all your parts, all your pieces, and all your thoughts. Just let your thoughts come and go, no resistance of them. Using that choice to not engage just for a few seconds. Building the muscle of choice. I can have a thought, I can be curious about it, but I don't have to become it. I don't have to believe it. I can question it. I can be awake to it. And here we really cement in the qualities of consciousness, awakeness, and mental presence. We're aware of ourself. And bringing in the last center of intelligence, lay your hands across your heart. Let yourself come home. Notice the sensations that you feel from bringing those hands layered across the heart. This mudra reminds us to go deep to the core of our being, to remember the love that is there. In the Christian teachings, we're taught we are made in the image of God. To remember this God love that we have at the center of our being. To celebrate the unique expression of it that we bring. To celebrate the preciousness that we are. To really feel this love from the inside out. To let it shine into all our parts and all our pieces. To let it shine into our thoughts and into our emotions. To let it support us to self-nurture. To take care of our body. To respect its messages. And then with that connection, I felt really good. Come back to our space. And on the screen is what we've been repeating each week while we've been in the body center, talking about points 8, 9, and 1, and that this is the home of the instinctual intelligence. And it comes through physical sensations. These physical sensations are actually felt if you've ever explored body dowsing. So the instinctual intelligence draws us to situations that are good for us and away from situations, people, ideas, thoughts. We can actually feel the drawing to, the receptivity, or the contraction, the warning to go a different direction. And this all becomes blocked when we have a lack of connection to these sensations, when we're distracted in our head or in our heart or shut down in our body. This home body center is home to the law of one, this idea of union and communion, how everything is connected. And this practice of pausing, doing it frequently, and building the muscle that it activates of the consciousness, the awakeness, and the presence. So without pausing in the body, without coming in and down, kind of in reactivity, or we are in reactivity. And we might feel more fear. We might feel more in survival, which is, I don't know, that's not where I want to be. We talked about Maslow's hierarchy recently in one of the other groups. And when you're in the lower levels and you're just in survival, can't do this deeper work. The body center relates to the physical chakras, to our personal power, to our relationships, to life itself, to how we navigate here in the physical. And the physical chakras all invite us into a sense of groundedness, to feel Mama Earth below our feet, to come in and down, to connect with this instinctual intelligence. It's all the same message. The focus for the body center is on doing. It's action based, but what we want it to be is conscious instead of unconscious. So when it's unconscious, it presents as a pattern of attempting to gain control, to maintain autonomy, to be self-governing, and to be right. Good. So it's forgetting our innate goodness, it's forgetting our innate autonomy, it's forgetting our choices. And it has a focus of how can I stand out, fit in, and make things better. And that last one, make things better, is really prominent for our type ones who have the descriptor of idealistic, reformer. And the one I least like, because I think it's most misunderstood, is perfectionist. And in this way, I just want to say this is not perfectionist from a lack energy. It is about divine perfection and the awakened one. No point is an island, no type is an island, and type ones are influenced by points 9, 2, 7, and 4. And hopefully we'll get to hear from our panelists about how those types show up for them, how those points. The essential quality is acceptance, an ability to embody the rightness in all things. It has patience as part of it, sacredness and purity. It's a lightness that we'll see in our type ones today, that allows space for reform in the world, which reform is to make things better, to take that right action, not from a contracted state, but from a very creative state. Ones can be super creative. They have that connection to 4 and 7, which really supports that. Their gifts and talents are described as fairness, integrity, improvement, responsibility, transparency, and order, innocent rightness, the ability to discern using wisdom and maturity over fear. They connect with that gut knowing, that instinctual intelligence. The desire for the type lens is structures, agreements, and often intensity that I would say is more of a seriousness. I love the seriousness of the one in me and the people I know that have that one lens. They want to be an asset and an authority, to share valued input. And they often scan with the question, what can I fix? Is it you? Is it something around the space? The childhood sensitivity for these types is the fear of making a mistake or being flawed, wrong, unredeemable, chaotic, critical, angry, or imperfect. They are sensitive to fitting in and being accepted. The lost message was you are good. You're innately good. You have innate goodness. So as children, if you have a type 1 child in your life, you have to be really sensitive with criticism because they really take it personally. Through the type lens, the basics, the holy idea versus the fixation. These are the head center in the type 1. Holy idea is the awakened essence, and it's called holy perfection. It's presence with neutrality. Our ideals cause us to miss the perfection in the imperfect, the beauty in the broken pieces. We suffer when we resist what is and focus on what should be. The fixation is how the holy idea gets into that should be, and it's called resentment. And it's a mental suffering pattern that's fueled by contracted ideals, limits to the potential of reality, condemnation, judgment, and righteousness, mistrust from perceived chaos, an unbending and unchangeable stance, unforgiving standards. And I know the one in me feels that a lot if the space around me is in disorder. Really, like I can really feel that fixation, how hard it is for me to sit in the chaos. So I have a lot of sympathy. Oh my gosh, I forgot to put the basic fear, but you're getting the gist of the basic fear. It's around goodness, it's around chaos, it's around the lack of order. The virtue is serenity. I'm really surprised you type ones didn't catch me on that and say, "Hey Nancy, you forgot I think I did that unconsciously on purpose." So kudos to all of you for not correcting me. The virtue and the passion are the dualities in the heart center for these type ones. The virtue is how the type 1 is receptive, and it's called serenity, a willingness to be open, learn, and connect, a deep faith and trust in divine order and flow, the order within the chaos, an ability to make space for creativity and wonder. presence with neutrality. I once had a person describe it as being the eye of the hurricane. So all the shit's flying around, but the oneness has this idea of presence. The passion is how we forget that serenity, and it's internalized anger that most ones would say, I don't have anger, I have frustration, or most of the ones I've talked to. This is an inability to experience their lofty ideals of goodness in themselves and with others and in the world around them. They fall into the temptation of control. And it's this contracted, rigid control to be the authority and to ensure the order, to fix and correct. I know the right way with a narrow focus on what is right and wrong. My way is the right way. Gretchen, who is a type 1, once told this great story that I really resonated with about loading the dishwasher. There is just only one way to load the dishwasher. And I agree with her, but every time I load the dishwasher, I laugh at myself because I'm rearranging how Paul has put it. The hidden complaint for the type 1 is I'm not angry. I'm just trying to get it right. I'm right most of the time. Others should listen to me. I know. And I love the little smiles I'm seeing on our panelists. All right, so moving to our panelists, I'm not going to keep these questions up on the screen. I'm going to take them down, but I'll give you a second to just look at them, or you want to take a picture. Type 1s, I'll ask you them. And let me rearrange my type 1 so you guys are all not letting me. Why is Anyway, all right. And we'll go around in a circle. So if everybody's got those questions down, and we're using the same questions for each type. I'm kind of learning as I go. I think this is a good way to go. And just knowing this is a introduction to the type. So there's so many more nuances to the type 1, and they may come out from our panelists a little bit, but we're just trying to give an introduction overview of what it's like to be with the lens of the 1. And we've got Lynn at type 1 and Rosemary and Yen. And thank you to all 3 of you for being willing to show up and be vulnerable and be part of the panel. And we really appreciate you. So starting out with the first question, which was just an introduction, if you could briefly share about yourself and your journey, your experience with the Enneagram, and basically what brought you to it, and then why are you staying with it? And Lynn, we'll start with you, and then we'll do Rosemary and then Yan.
Okay. I kind of came to the Enneagram by accident. I had found Nancy through yoga and ended up getting connected to her website. Luckily, just before COVID shut everything down. And so was able to be connected and started paying attention to the things that she offered on her website. And I really didn't even know what it was, but I joined the class and was absolutely amazed. I think I've been analyzing myself my whole life and not getting the answers, not understanding what was going on, why I had a tendency to put people off and lose friends. And um, learning about the Enneagram was just an eye opener for me and really, really helped my heart. That maybe I wasn't as flawed as I thought I was. And so I started studying it, and it's always been a struggle for me to learn, to remember. And so it's like it's taken me all of these years to really start to become more understanding of what is going on with me. And that's, what's going to keep me there, of course, is I just keep learning and am so grateful for everything that I am learning.
Thank you. And we're already feeling the type one just in what Lynn has shared. My heart just extends to you. All right, Rosemary, what brought you in and what keeps you practicing?
Well, I did some work with aging and saging and became trained. And then I noticed that a lot of the people in my group were spiritual directors. So I finished that program, and that was like a 2-year thing. And then I went to spiritual direction school 10 years ago. And in that school, they introduced the idea of working with your directees using the Enneagram. So that was my first exposure. And so then I found groups and found Nancy's Tuesday night group, and I did classes and read books. I did book studies. And what keeps me going, I think, is it just so fits. Like when I say the word acceptance in my body, I completely settle down and get peaceful. And when you say load the dishwasher, I get all tense because it has to be done that way. And it's just funny. But I've always been trying to heal myself, and I think finding this method where I fit so well. And then I do consider on the scheme of things that I've healed somewhat, because I can go to someone else's house and not reload their dishwasher. And I don't think I have to be right as much. So the word acceptance, I began that practice of, choosing a word for a year. And then I kind of took it for a month, and then I take it for a day. And so often it's words of healing for my type, like acceptance, let go, those kind of things. And I have a wonder about whether my parents made my type more challenging. And then I thought this morning as I was preparing that my parents would have been difficult for any type, but I think that partly being a one was hard with parents that were very controlling and very rigid and very chaotic. So, but anyway, it's
Yeah,
been a journey, and I continue the journey.
yeah. I love um I love how you brought out, because I think this is so important for everyone to understand, is the one's ability to laugh. The one does love to laugh and to be light. And then the second thing is the influence of our parents on our type. Um, our culture, our religion, our parenting, our society, our schools, all flavors the type. So thanks for bringing that up, Rosemary. And Yen, your turn. What brought you to it and what keeps you practicing?
Um, well, what brought me to it is one of the Christian ministries that I am part of that is about the soul, very soul focused, and which is what resonates with me. My chart is like that. And so, and Enneagram is slowly being starting to be getting popularity in the Christian community. And, as a one, I wanted to be perfect. I don't want to really make God angry. So I was like, this one sounds safe. But I'm always very, very into personality topologies and things like that. But that's how I got into it. And when I got into it, I was like, this is absolutely the most divine personality topology and a spiritual guide that I have ever seen in my life. Because I've always looking for ways for healing my soul, because I just found it to be something so detrimental to me that I always be on this journey since I was a child. And then I found there was just unparalleled amount of spiritual power that the Enneagram has, on the individual basis and how it helps to bring wholeness. And it's so compassion based. And I, as a spiritual being, compassion is the foundation of my being. And that's what I believe in where true healing is, and especially for someone who can be so critical and harsh about being perfect. Without compassion, I would never ever have a chance to heal myself or influence anybody else on this planet. So that's what brought me to it. And that's what keeps me on this path where I see true healing lies in compassion, lies in grace and forgiveness, regardless of our bondage and our prison. And also makes me feel connected because one is all about connection, that I know that I'm not alone just because I am suffering in my own fixation. It doesn't mean other people are free from some type of suffering. Where I used to can feel isolated or misunderstood, most importantly, because of one type of suffering can be unique comparing to the other type, even though it's not a comparison thing, but the feeling of disconnected is devastating to a one. So
Yeah.
that what helps me. That was what keeps me staying on this journey for the rest of my life because you're just, it's kind of like a thing about healthy, physical health. This is spiritual health. This is mental health. This is emotional health. And all of that is something that just because you work out today doesn't mean the rest of your life you don't need to move anymore.
Yeah.
It's really something that I need to maintain and keep learning and practicing.
Yeah. I love you brought in religion and how the essence of one and what Rosemary said, the acceptance is really timely for right now in our world. Bringing back the words you used were so perfect, the compassion. And yeah, so perfect. Thank you. Thank you all. I think we're feeling these descriptors of the reformer and even the essence of this perfectionist. But there's also the idealistic. And so, Rosemary, I'm going to start with you, and then we'll go to Yen, and then Lynn. We'll just keep switching who gets to go first. How do these descriptors land with you? Do you feel like they describe you? Or are there other words that you prefer to capture your lens as a one?
Thank you. Yes, let's see. I am not so idealistic, I don't think, or a reformer. I'm just more the perfectionist. So, along with that, I'd say a rule follower, which has really been detrimental to me, like a real fear if I break a rule. Um, and a control, trying to gain control of the environment. So those are more my descriptors, perfectionist. So just to go on a little bit is what I like the most now is to say to myself, I'm imperfectly perfect, or the
Mm-hmm.
reverse, I'm perfectly imperfect. That saying those two words to myself at any time just lets me release.
Mm-hmm.
There's kind of a sacredness in being imperfectly perfect and the vice versa. And the other thing is just the fear was hard for me as a rule follower. I had a lot of fear, and my husband would make fun of me, which would more trigger me because like we'd maybe go to a risque movie and I'd be sitting there and feeling like I was breaking a rule or something, and he'd point to me and go, "Principal, teacher," and I feel like I could just die and want to hide under this, or if I just have to disclose to people that I cannot break a rule.
Yeah.
It could be the silliest rule. Like I have to put my water bottle in my purse to take it into the movies. My husband just carries his water bottle in, and the sign says no outside food or drink. I'm hiding my water. So that's like how I live with that kind of thing. So
Yeah, that's so great to we can really sense that need to be good.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's a small box to live in.
Yeah. 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 I just wrote down I am imperfectly perfect. I have never turned that around. I've used the other one, but thank you for that. That's a great mantra for all of us. Yeah, I am imperfectly perfect. Thank you. Yeah, and how do these descriptors land with you? And is there something better?
Oh, I thought they're perfect. They're not imperfectly perfect. They just are perfect. Yeah, they do land with me that I used to be the type of person. I'm more conscious now, but I'm still clinging to likely when I walk in a room or anywhere, the first thing I see is what's wrong instead of what's right. I see the word wrong means based on my standard, what is not up to my standard. Instead of wrong, I would say what is up to my perfection standard. And what's even hard is I have these perfection standard for myself and idealistic. It has not only be perfect, my life had to be idealistic. Given I'm like, darn it, I wasn't born in the right era. I wasn't born in the right time or the right culture. Means it's not just perfect, it's not ideal, the situation. So it's more about if you think of a painting that is so much of a fantasy that people can't even strive for. It's a state of being that had life been perfect and ideal, what could life be? And
Mm,
imagine living from a place that a type 1 person's fixation, the root expectation of life on oneself is that painting. How could that be ever good enough? When it comes to his or her or whatever the pronoun is, his identity and his self-worth is based on that painting. And that's kind of if you would visualize how a type 1 fixation's life is like every day, that would be that. And all of the emotions and feelings that comes with it is based on that expectation.
mm,
The anger is more of the deep-rooted anger when it's not like that, and the frustration. And it comes with the demandingness and sometimes even entitlement. It's one thing is to desire it. It's a slippery slope, a fine line between I want and desire this versus this is my expectation and
mm,
the demand and the entitlement. And I remember one of Lisa Turkis, she's one of my favorite, you know, um, girl in Proverbs 31. And she was talking about the root of suffering among women, why we suffer so much when we want nothing but the best for ourselves and for our family and our loved ones. We want them to be healthy. We want people to be happy. We want them to, we have all of these godly desires, but what is wrong? That they don't come out to be very loving. Is she's like talking about desire versus it turning into a demand. And
mm.
and I was like, wow, that is so profound.
Yeah.
And I think for the fixation of one and also just the unity of all different types that are wanting can turn into that we start to demand and feel a sense of entitlement. And it becomes a expectation that especially I have to meet to feel that I'm even worthy and just have any self-worth at all. And that perceived, that painting of a standard, if I think about it, and how impossible or silly that is to put anybody, you know, to match that. I mean, to meet that.
You're really describing the idealistic description, and it the ones bring us the ideal for us to reach for it, but it can also get so contracted when um, when we judge it.
When is the demand?
Yeah, and I you said earlier when you were talking, I really saw the move to point seven and bringing in that vision that seven has, the vision of the perfect, the vision of the idea. And yeah, the difference between bringing it in from a very critical mind or bringing it in from a very joyful place. Yeah, thank you. And Lynn, what do you want to add to everything that's been said?
Agree with Jan. I mean, everything that she has said, it's like, yes. And, like for most of my life, just thought of myself as an organizer. I had to organize everything. Everything around me had to be organized and in place. I could not work in chaos. It had to be organized. And I never thought of it as being a perfectionist because that's the last thing I've ever thought about myself being, because I'm so far from perfect. But yet, apparently, I was trying to reform everybody else around me to be those perfect people. And as Rosemary was saying, she couldn't do anything wrong. I had kind of a little bit of both of that, I guess you could say, of, wanting to do things right, morally, etc., because of my Christian training. And yet I could find myself so easily being okay with me not doing the rules right, but everybody else better. You better do them right, or things are going to get really messed up. And of course, now, looking through myself through the lens of the Enneagram, I can understand, what was going on better. And it's easier for me to let go a little bit more of being that reformer or that idealist that I want to see things this way. And at the same time, because I'm still struggling with all of this, I'll give you an example that just happened this week. I received a bill from my doctor's office that showed that I owed for a mental health assessment. And I called them up to say, what is this all about? I came in for a cold. Well, you signed this paper. And I'm like going, what paper? And I was just so upset. This was just so wrong. I feel like the medical field, if you will, whoever makes their rules is lying and cheating and falsifying so that they can bill more stuff and get paid more stuff. And I'm like going, I had to go. I had had this cold for over a month and I was worried about, taking the drugs, over the counter drugs for so long. And I needed to make sure I was okay. And that, if there was something better I should be taking. And, the doctor did give me what I needed so that I could finally get rid of the cold. But now 2 months later, I get this bill and I'm just so frustrated. It's like, you're so wrong, but there's going to be absolutely nothing I can do about it other than getting copies of these forms that they say that I signed, carrying them with me every time I go into the doctor's office and saying, nope, not going to sign these forms ever again, but it's like, to me, I go back to I need to reform the medical field. They're doing it wrong. They're cheating people.
They are. They are. They are. And I thank you for that personal story. That is the energy of the one to bring integrity. And yeah, it's Medicare fraud is what they're doing. But yeah, thank you. All right, moving along with more stories. So, Lynn, thanks for moving us into stories. Jen, we'll start with you, and then Lynn and Rosemary. Um, Janie says she wrote them a letter, contacted Medicare specialist. Yeah, you could go down that rabbit hole if you want to. Yeah. But reflecting on the spectrum of your type, we're really trying to flesh that out. Can you share an example, Yen, a story of when you could see the push and pull between the fixation and your holy idea, or and the passion and your type virtue.
Uh, yes, it actually happens happens like all the time for me.
Yeah,
That
for all of us.
and especially when I get triggered. Triggered means especially when there's something that I really care about deeply. And if I don't care too much about it, and I think I'm a lot more easy to work with. But if there's something that I care about, number one, number two, there is a wound that is not being healed. For example, I would say one is very much about the physical body. It's about movement and it's using our body to feel grounded and to take action and to use movement to connect with our own physical body and to connect with other people's body as well. So that is an area that I have a deep wound because to born in a culture, and also if you think about very um, conventional, traditional Christian view, that yoga is considered to be a taboo because it's based in Hinduism, and Hinduism can worship a lot of different gods. So there's a lot of controversies out there, about can Christian practice yoga? And then for a one, if that is, wow, a taboo, if something can make God angry, God can be jealous, and especially it says in the Bible, all of that thing, I used to be so caught in that. And that was something that I was very, very scared. In my body, I felt the deep, profound connection with yoga. But in my heart and in my soul, I was afraid to death of making God angry. And that's why I did not feel comfortable practicing it, dare to teach it or anything like that for many, many, many years of my life. And that is, like an example
Yeah.
of how I can prison myself from self-condemnation, judgment, deep, profound of shame, and struggle about my identity. Why do I like it? Why do I even want it? That is wrong. And I would be my self-worth, like I would be just feeling I am worthless if I would do that, you know, say make a living or collect a paycheck or something like that. Like, no, I cannot do that. That is just simply not acceptable. And I even like would put out the Bible verses that will back it up so that I would prove to myself that is not acceptable, that is not okay. Coming from the place of wanting to be good and also coming from my heart and soul that is deeply spiritual, from a place where I worship God, from a place where making the creator of our being to be jealous and mad. Kind of like the mom scolding at me saying, don't do that. Why do you even want that? And let alone practice it.
The contracted state. Yeah.
Exactly. So I lived with that for so many years of my life. And so that's like a deep spiritual wound with my identity and with my worth. And it's taking me the last 17 years, the planet of Pluto, the planet of transformation in Capricorn. Capricorn is all about authority. It's all about climbing up the ladder. It's all about listen to the authority, what they're saying. Doesn't matter it's right or wrong, that you have to obey. And the last 17 years, and I've been free over that 17 years, I freed myself from that religious bondage with my body. Now I'm on a new journey of religious bondage. I found a deeper place in my soul of the way my body moved that's even more prohibited. So now I'm trying to bring freedom into that and talking about not just one and with a sexual instinct of one, of using the body to attract. At the same time, have to think about my self-preservation and social acceptance. How does the way I want to move my body fit in a social norm in a setting? And how does that allow my physical body to be able to survive? These are the things that now I am thinking about to bring wholeness and unity. And also, how can I free my body from the movements that I desire to make so that I can continue to go deeper in my soul to connect with my own body and to bring that freedom beyond yoga now into new movement, a form of, dance to myself and then to the world
Oh,
of women movement.
again,
So
you're bringing in that 7, that freedom. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. And Lynn, what do you want to add on? That was
I
deep.
know.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
You know, she's so good. She just fills it all in for us, right? But nobody else needs to say anything. She's got it. But oops, hang on a second here. Clicking. The example, I guess, that I was going to share about my gifts and challenges has to do with the idea of the perfect marriage, because there has always been a lot of conflict, I guess you could say, in my marriage. We love each other completely. We know we do. And yet we'll have this conflict over probably me trying to be a reformer, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like, I don't want to do that. And yet I would do it, I mean, and I could feel that tension building in my body, like, no, what you're saying is wrong. You're not listening to me. And, then when it would finally explode and I would finally go into the other room and sit with myself, my way of sitting with myself was just praying. God, help me. What am I doing? I feel like I'm just totally out of control here. How do I bring it back down and stop doing this? And God would usually calm me down, maybe because I was going inside, and connecting. And so there's, my challenge of, but I want him to see this, that he's telling me that I'm out of control when he's the one that's out of control, et cetera. You know how marriage conflicts can go. And yet then there's the idea of, but I don't want this. There is no reason for this. It's stupid. I just want to make it go away. So there's my conflict and my challenge.
Thank you. You brought in a little bit of the 4, the awakened 4 of self-realization. And I know Lynn's beloved husband, he identifies through my lens. And we like control too. And I think that's where the conflict can often come from, is who gets to be in control today.
Right. Oh, well, exactly. And then, like Jan had brought up, the planets, it's like the Taurus and a Leo also thrown in there.
Yeah, lots of strength. Yeah, yeah.
And I see when he's upset with me, him going to his 8. Now that I know the Enneagram, what's going on. I used to tell him, I'm like going, when you get mad at me, you like see red. And it's like, you have no idea what you're saying to me. And he would completely deny it. well, now I understand where he is. He's going into his power center because I'm into my power center, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, then bring it down, find that center.
Yeah. Yeah. The two goes to that unconscious vengeance we learned about at point 8, and the one would go into the suppressed anger, where the 2 is outward, the 1 is more inward, internalizing it with the influence at 4, and going into criticism. And Lynn beautifully described that. It's always first internal criticism. What have I done wrong? And that's so important to understand when we're playing with a person with a type 1 lens, is to know that whatever criticism you're feeling from them, it's pretty much guaranteed they're feeling it 100% more for inside themselves. Rosemary, I see you nodding your head. Thank you, Lynn. What do you want to expand on?
You mean me?
Yeah.
Yeah, just the self-critic part. What it was a gift, Nancy, was those tapes you sent to listen to, that hearing that, oh, I forget, but my self-critic, oh, so strong. So really I've learned to love myself. That's the key, love myself. And then that self-critic goes away. So my story was dealing with my father. My gifts are all those gifts we've talked about: being responsible, being competent, and then he had dementia for 4 years and was a 3, a real narcissist, and trying to deal with that. And I really did learn lots of skills, but it was a painful, painful journey. And I'd say it took he was in hospice for 2.25 years, which, meant that he was sick enough to need that, but also denying everything. And some of that's the dementia and some of that's the narcissism. So he had both. And so, really, I'd get super angry when I'd be with him. I learned this little thing I called pause, which is praise, admire, soothe, and wait for him to ask for something. So I'd praise him, I'd
Beautiful.
admire him, I'd soothe him. And those all helped me too settle down, and and sometimes I just had to leave, and I learned to let others deal with it. And my brother and I had to say, if he falls, he falls. If he does this, he does this. We'll deal with it. But it hit all my frustration and all my anger. And I learned to yell in the car going home. I learned to yell in the shower. I learned to swear words in the shower, in the car, because you can never swear out loud, for God forbid. So do that but I just learned a lot of coping, but it took a long time, and it was definitely a challenge. And the other thing that I just wanted to say about my gift is, somehow the gift of clarity and all these things helps me see the elephant in the room that often other people don't see. And I've often named it in school meetings, in principal meetings, in even in the dementia caregiving meetings, name what's going on, because of my gift that's a gift that I never really could
Absolutely.
see. I'd be like, why am I saying this when no one else is? And I was like, oh, it's like one of my gifts. So just wanted to bring that out in case it was a gift for someone else that they didn't know about.
Yeah. And that's that influence from 4 to see outside of the box. I wonder if I could just have you speak a little bit more, because we haven't had it come out yet, but that responsibility that the 1 feels for everything.
Yeah, that's a big burden, that responsibility. And like, I have this thing now, like I hold one finger and say, it's not mine to fix. It's not my circus. It's not my monkeys. You're okay. And I love myself, and then let it go. And I have to kind of go through that because, I think I've changed a lot in the last 10 years, but that burden of responsibility, even with my dad, kind of till the very end, and learning to back off was really big for me. He had a caregiving team, he had caregivers. So learning to let others step up. I've really become more of a background watcher and listener than I used to be. And then people will ask me what I think, and then I'll put my wisdom in, which is a gift. But I used to put it in first, and now I'm often a backseat person, listening and waiting. And often do that. Even in a group like this, I'll be quiet, and then someone will, well, Rosemary, what do you think? And then I'll have this gem, just to say it's a gem, but it was a gem. But
Yeah.
anyway, Yeah, and I also just want to say about that my dad too. I don't think I realized the anger and suppression and resentment till those times. And I'd come home and go, "What's wrong with me?" And it was that feeling of like, "Oh, I'm so frustrated." You know, I would go to, this is just a short story, go to Kaiser, get, he had an infection. It took forever, get someone to the house, do an X-ray, you know, have calling the X-ray mobile team to come over, getting meds, getting him on the meds. And then granted, my mother was then at the point of passing away and saying, "You need to take your antibiotic," and him hitting my hand. Like, this is such a vivid memory, and the pill shooting like into God knows where. But if he didn't take the medicine, he wouldn't get better. And all the work I'd done, and then him just smacking me. And I think I pinched him. I think my son-in-law at the time said, "Let's go for a walk, Rosemary," because I was so angry. But I don't think I realized until I knew I was the one how much anger and resentment I kept inside. So I
Yeah.
still have to work on kind of letting that out in safe ways.
Can I say in here, Rosemary, I completely understand what you're saying. My father did not have dementia, but when his body was failing, he was, I don't even know what I'm going to say what type he was, but he was very controlling and nobody was going to tell him what to do. And yet here he was failing. I was responsible. A really horrific thing had happened before that to cause all of it. And I was so angry over him because he had basically brought it all upon himself by, wanting to think that, I can still do it. I'm like, Dad, you're 89 years old. When are you going to recognize what you're doing here? But no way. And so I was so angry and very resentful. But mine, instead of dealing with worrying about his physical so much, was worrying about his spiritual. I felt he was lost to God. And my last days, or his last days, I tried so hard to bring him back to God. And it was definitely, I'm going to cry now just thinking about it. I don't think I did. And it just breaks my heart. Breaks my heart. So I understand. But it was on the spiritual level. So it's there.
Yeah. You guys did a great job of really describing the spectrum and the journey. Rosemary, really appreciated, what you know now versus what you didn't know. And that's the the whole goal of the Enneagram, is to um, help us with that self-discovery and to flesh out those choices. And Lynn, your story, and all of you, your stories really brings to light um, that burden of responsibility. But also, Lynn, you brought up a little bit about the gift that you have, where you see you see where others are not being responsible. You can easily say, "Hey, you're bringing this on yourself." Um, so everything, I guess I'm bringing this up because I really want to hit home that everything has the potential for good, even the fixation and the passion. It's how we use them.
Right. And see, and that was a big part of the catalyst too that brought me to the Enneagram. Is I was like scraping bottom and needed help. And I have, since then been able to forgive him. And it felt so good when I actually felt myself truly forgive.
Yeah, yeah. Janie just put in the comments, the depth of caring is amazing. So we are feeling all three of your hearts. So thank you. All right, Lynn, going back to you, and our fourth question, what else would you like us to know about the one lens? And what would help you if we could just understand it about you?
Well, I guess, hang on a second, I have to dry my eyes.
I'm
The
gonna,
the main thing that when I read this question and thought about it that I wanted is for people to see that when we maybe are, making them feel less than, or feeling like we're trying to tell them what to do or whatever, to maybe understand that it's because we're coming from a caring place. I, the easiest for me is, of course, to share stories. And there was another time where I was trying to explain a business situation to a cousin. And because I felt like I knew it, and it was a something that was a part of my business life. And I was trying to explain that what her and her brother were doing, it wasn't going to work. That because there were, Colorado laws, etc., going on. And she got so angry with me, and left. And even when I tried to call her and talk to her and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be telling you what to do. I'm so concerned that, your brother is going to be without or get fined if something isn't done. But if you want me to back off, I'll back off. And she just would not forgive me, just boom, gone. And she hasn't spoken to me since. And it's like, if only she could have seen, it was just because I was coming from a caring place, and that maybe helped me to understand. Again, this was slightly before the Enneagram, so I didn't know how to calm myself down and back off. And if maybe she had just maybe looked at that where are you coming from? And maybe that's with anybody, not just a one, but where are you coming from? How can I listen to your heart and maybe hear what you have to say?
that's so beautiful. Yeah. And to reflect on why are we taking this personally? Like often it makes me think of the four agreements, don't take things personally, always do your best, which is such a one thing. Don't make assumptions, which is huge, especially for you on that story. Don't make assumptions. It was about you. And okay, don't take things personally. Don't make assumptions. Always do your best. What's the word?
Be impeccable with your
Be
word.
impeccable with your word. Another one quality. The four agreements definitely have a lot of one energy. Yeah, thank you for that, Lynn, and thank you for that story so that we can really feel what it's like. You have this gift, as I said, as a with the one lens, and the one lens for all of us is to see things kind of the black and the white. Yeah. Rosemary, what do you want to add? What would you like us to know?
Well, do my best actually kind of frees me because I can say I did my best and then I can relax and let go. So that actually, I think the four agreements actually free me maybe because, be impeccable with my word helps my inner critic. Is that really true? Would you say that to someone else? Blah, blah, blah. That really helps. So what I wrote down preparing is that the rule following, and what's really helped me is disclosing right away. My daughter had a horrible divorce and has a lovely new partner, and we were traveling together, and I said, I need to let you know about this thing about me with rules. And, like when we went on a trip to Hawaii before, my daughter wanted to go down this road and watch the movie set where Dwayne, whatever his name is, The Rock, was filming. And, the big sign says, do not pass this point. And she's like, let's just drive down there. And I said, you need to stop the car and I need to get out. And then you can go, but I'm not going. And I was really triggered. And so when we were in Hawaii with her new partner, I said, by the way, I just need to let you know these are things that trigger me, rule follow. And so disclosing it, like my husband and I have agreements and we made a game out of it. Like I'll go, I said to Greg, do you know what part of the one is? You have to be right. And he goes, well, hello. And I go, so now we'll go, oh, I'm right. And then he'll go, oh, I'm right. And we'll make little finger marks. And we turn it into this game because that just frees me. And it also like, okay, I'm recognizing my personality type. I'm recognizing what I'm doing. And I've really let go of trying to be right. And it's again that kind of quietness and stepping back. I might know something and I just keep it to myself. And then if someone says, "What do you think?" I'll say, "Well, I think this." So disclosing has really, really helped me. And then my teachers all saw the good in me right away. I mean, I don't think my parents saw the good in me. And I
Mm.
think that just added to the wounding. But my every teacher, like every time I was out of the home, people would see the good in me, and that would nourish me and sustain me. And I was often kind of the teacher's pet. I don't know why, but I think I gave off this vibe of needing feeling confident in some ways and being humble in other ways that you're never really appreciated, and teachers seeing that and seeing, oh, this is a really good person. And I just and then I became a teacher, and I think I did that for my students. I feel like I created a safe place for them to not be criticized, not be I really did create a safe environment for my kids, and recognizing their diversity, which you would think would be hard for a one, but I kind of saw their innate perfection. Like each child was perfect with all their, if they had learning disabilities or gifts or talents, they all were special and safe. And I think that was some of my gifts. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. And that what you're describing is holy perfection. So as you were talking, I'm getting goosebumps because that is the awakened state for point one and the point one in all of us. We can all reach for that. And then you're pulling on the nine of seeing how diversity and how each child's unique expression, the four, creates the wholeness, creates that perfection. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Yan, how do you want to finish up on this?
Um, I wanted to bring one point is, I guess anybody, but especially to one that we can feel so being misunderstood. And I tend to start telling people, I said, it's one thing to be alone. I love to be alone. But it's another thing to feel so lonely and isolated when one is being cut off and being misunderstood by others. Because I've been told by people like, oh my gosh, like what's the point that you're so idealistic, you're so perfectionist? Like there's no point even try to do that. Like it's so unnecessary and it's so annoying. Like it's in a way that is frowned upon, or there are other people who are not very open with their criticism. The more of the water signs, they're just like avoid you, like avoid me, or they're just like almost a little bit better than ghosting, you know?
Mhm.
And that I feel very, I can feel very isolated and I can feel very lonely because I'm being misunderstood. So I just wanted to tell other people that as a one, when I am being creative, when I create different formulations, different ideas, or when I talk about things, it is an illustration of what could be. It's an
Mhm.
illustration of my heart, what I desire, and possibilities in life. It is no way of a demand. It is no way of entitlement. It is a no way of any judgment being placed on anyone against. It is not even my standard. It's possibility and options and a dream of
Yeah.
life. It's
Yeah.
basically a painting that I'm presenting to other people of what life could be. You could say yes, you could say no, you could consider anywhere putting a dot in between. That is being appreciated to have a self-expression. And that is an illustration of love to my heart. But come across can be so misunderstood of our hearts and what we desire. And another thing that I want to say is the holy perfection that, that Rosemary beautifully illustrated. And also for me, that I, all my entire life, that in different chapter and different season, based on my heart's and soul's capability of what I am being equipped with. And starting from now, going to a new era, a world is being this holy, bringing holiness at a different, such a profound level, much higher divinity level, that for my body, and also for my soul on a spiritual level, that I wanted to create that safe place where I want everyone have that self-expression, moving their body in a way that's maybe socially taboo, to feel being seen just the way they are, without judgment, without shame, and to feel safe
Yeah.
that you're being seen that way. And that touches me so deeply. And then other people don't even care, but I do. I really do. And it's so genuine. And also, spiritually, that we talk about the contemplative practice, compassion based, that creating that holy, safe space for people to be seen with all the imperfections and that sacred place of dream place in our soul. For example, like women, they ask women, or everybody asks, like, what do you do in such a maybe Enneagram 3 based society that is based on accomplishment? That can make every woman feel so ashamed and feel so small and so not enough. It's like I have to label like I'm a nurse or I'm a doctor or whatever. It's about self-worth. Women do so much. What about some women have a special need child in her home? What about something like my heart that I want to sit there with my daughter, just make her feel seen and heard? There is no title. There is nothing achieving about that.
But there is so
It's
much.
But that is so beautiful. There is nothing more beautiful being someone seen just for who they are and the way they are and where they are in life. That is not achievement based. There's also almost nothing about me that I really care about achievement, but I care so much about the planet, about the world, and about humanity in general. And so she presented that in a safe place, saying, I almost wanted to change the world. And when people ask questions, they can ask, what interesting are you working on these days? What interests you that you're working on these days? Instead of everybody ask, what do you do? And I'm just like, it makes me cry. And it's like, I just want to create space like this for people.
Yeah.
Anyway, so these
Thank
are
you.
just a couple of things that came to me.
Oh, so much to unpack there. But overall, I'm hearing just the reminder of how much heart the one has. So the one is in the body center, but it's bordering the heart center. And Jane said it earlier, so much caring coming from all three of you. You have 2 points at the heart. You've got the 2 and the 4. I think I just heard a lot of that. And I also really enjoyed you accentuating the intention of the one, the intention, that holy ideal, not from a contracted state, but I'm trying to hold this ideal for all of us. And I've heard many ones talk about how it really helped them to turn things into questions rather than announcements, that people really heard. Thanks, Rosemary, smiling. People heard them better when they learned when they brought more of the 7 in, the head center curiosity, the inquiry, instead of this is how you load the dishwasher. Can you see how this is better, to stack the dishes this way, or something. But yeah, we really felt from all three of you. Thank you so much. The caring and the gift of the one, the vision of this ideal, the vision of integrity, the vision of perfection from holy perfection. And thank you. And I have one last question, and Rosemary, we'll start with you. And it's just, what advice would you give your younger self? And it sounds like you've talked a lot about this already, your journey from your younger self to the wisdom that you're finding freedom. You're the whole purpose of the Enneagram is to loosen the grip of the personality. So any last little nugget on loosening that grip?
Yeah, I have a few little things. I don't know if you can see it, but behind me, that's Legos Rivendell from Lord of the Rings. So, like, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. I buy Legos. When I bought my grandchildren dolls, I bought more clothes. I sit there and my husband came upstairs. I'm combing the doll and dressing it. And he's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like,
Playing.
it's for the girls. They'll be coming over soon. I'm just getting them ready." But I am playing and going to that 7. So I think that I go to 7 more than I used to, but I also buy myself things that are from my childhood and it's really funny because my brother does the same. We have Lego collections, but we're revisiting things we didn't get. And so the other thing I tell myself is, I see your good heart. I really have learned to love myself. That's the key to not feeling alone. And the last thing is, I call the critical voice the first voice. And then I always listen for the second voice, which is the true voice of God coming through to me to tell me what to do. So I always ignore that first voice and just go, "Oh, that's the first voice." And I wait for the what I call the holy second voice to come in and speak to me. And those are things that I would tell myself, or like, "You'll be okay. All shall be well," is what I would tell myself.
What a great statement. All shall be well. Thank you.
Mm.
Yan, and then Lynn. Oops, you're muted. She's getting it there.
Oh,
There you
sorry.
go. That's
The
okay.
recorded bar that had my button.
So
Yeah,
what advice would you give your younger self and why?
I would say, um, if I mean, younger self, that I was not conscious to tell myself that I wish I didn't have to try so hard to hold myself to that perfection standard of extending my love to other people. And I think if I had been more easy on myself, that I would be easier on other people as well. So I think right now, my mantra for myself is compassion. If I have more compassion for myself, and especially, at my age right now, I can't be operating the same standard anymore. It's actually not possible. It's just too much work. It's too much energy, too much money. I had to over time to lower my standard. And now I just tell myself that, you know what? It's good enough.
Mhm.
It's good enough. I'm doing more than enough already. It's good enough. And so if I tell myself it's good enough and have compassion for myself, that I think it's really helping me to see other people to be more than good enough and what they have done for me. It's almost letting go or making that idealistic, whatever that painting I used to paint, I used to be able to hold to that level and to make that more of a dream standard and knowing that is a dream and knowing the difference between what is a dream was reality and to hold reality and humanity at the place that this is already pretty ideal and it's already really, really good. And coming from a place of gratitude that I was actually teaching my husband and my daughter. I said, if somebody had told me when I was a little girl, think about life like a donut. If I focus on the whole, it's never enough, right? It's always empty. Versus if I look at the donut every day and think about, oh my goodness, I have a whole donut already. I have so much in my life, and then also knowing there is always room for improvement. I ought to feel a lot more abundant from my heart. So these are the things I wish I had a parent telling me that. That would just really, for one, that would fill my heart with the whole donut.
The donut's such a great metaphor because the whole has purpose. It's not the lack. I love what you brought up it's good enough. And as we move next week into the heart types, we're going to see this, what Yen just shared, come through. The heart types all fall into some form of lack. The twos feel unlovable, the threes feel unworthy, the fours feel unseen or missing something vital. And that one that Yen just beautifully, just with the donut, it's such a perfect example for us to embody, because we have this in all of us. We all have point one, we all have the heart types, we all have the head types, we all have the body types. Um, it's good enough to see that the to see the whole donut and the whole has purpose, to find the goodness, to use to turn the lack around, to turn it on its head, like you just beautifully did. Like I have the whole donut, and it's not missing anything just because it has a hole in it. Thank you. All right, Lynn, we're going to wrap it up and then turn it over to questions. What do you want to share here? What would you tell your younger self?
To be more curious. It was one of the things when I read that, the last message was, you're good, because that was the one thing my mother always, always, she was the most loving, giving, caring human I've ever known. And for her, it was always, you're my good girl. You're my good girl. But that was the very thing that I think made everybody else crazy with goody two shoes. The, you know, because I guess I was always trying to reform them, that everybody else was not liking that I was, telling them they needed, especially like my brother and sister, and, you need to go to church more with me. You need to read the Bible more with me. Why aren't you doing this? And instead they turned it on me. And it felt like everybody else, was that way. And it's like, well, now what if you had been curious? What's going on with you? Why do you feel this way? And so that would be my biggest thing, is to try to be more curious instead of thinking that I knew it all, that I was always right. Which, of course, later then I would learn you didn't know it all. You weren't always right. There was another view to see. There is always another view. Seemed like I was pretty good at going to 7 if I wanted to escape my oneness. I was very good at that. One of my favorite 7 escapes was when it just seemed like life was getting so down on me. I was struggling to make ends meet, etc. And my sister came over and I said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to run away. We're going to go, buy a 6-pack of beer, and we're going up to Red Rocks. And you weren't supposed to be up there at night, the amphitheater. And we went up to the amphitheater, and there was a group of people down there on the stage playing. And we went down and just sat, and then both of us just love music. And we just so enjoyed these musicians down there where we weren't supposed to be. But there we were running away. There we were, but it was just, like I said, I was good at going to 7 as far as running away, but not as for being curious, not for letting go of thinking I was right. And so that would be my advice to my younger self.
That's quite beautiful, and that goes with the what other people have told me. Like, just if I could have asked more questions instead of announcing the answer. I love what you brought up. We haven't talked about it before, but I've often heard ones on panels talk about it as like their back door, their alter ego, and it can be very extreme. at point one, because the point one can be so controlled with themselves and doing the right thing. And the example I have is if anybody's a fan of the Young Sheldon um, show, Young Sheldon's mom is she does the one person, I don't know what her is in real life, but her character uh, definitely feels like the one. And when she just she'll be so stressed and then she goes out and drinks and she doesn't drink. And she's again very attached to her spiritual structure. She's a Baptist and then she'll go out and get really drunk and dance and just that backdoor behavior that the one is really complex. And so I hope everybody's gotten that. And we lost a few people. Heather had to go, and Susan wasn't feeling well. But nothing about you guys. You guys have given a fabulous, fabulous panel. And I just want to open it up to our people that are left, to Janie, to Joyce, to Sang, to Nina. What questions do you have for Lynn and Rosemary and Yen? And Joyce, I see you unmuted. So do you want to go first?
Okay. I wanted to ask you, I was listening to those videos Nancy sent out, and in the first one, um, the woman, and I don't remember what her name was, but she asked a question I so identified with, and it was, why am I attached to the tension in my body as part as the one? So I'm just curious about all of you and what have you experienced that? Do you do have a lot of, and I'm going to say, is it, and because of kind of, I'm going to say, I want to reframe perfectionism as divine discontent, kind of the reformer in you, as does that play into this tension in the body that question, why am I attached to the tension in the body? So I really identified, I mean, it just opened up so much in me, but I'm just curious about your experiences.
Go ahead, Rosemary.
I actually thought about that question when I listened to it too. And for me, it's kind of my fear of being wrong. So I'm kind of in a fight or flight all the time. And I think as I heal, that's less, but I still feel some tension. But I think it's like, I'm going to be wrong. Especially from my childhood, I'm going to get in trouble. I never knew I was loved, but I always knew I was in trouble. Both parents, super critical, super. So I think for me, it's holding the fight or flight. Like I need to be ready to run for it or freeze or whatever. But that's where I feel like I hold the tension. That was what came to me.
Yeah, that survival energy, that is the body types. That's really good, Rosemary. Yen, did you want to share?
Yeah, I think for me is for one, especially is connection with the self. And to for us, to connect with our body is how we ground our body and how we feel connected, the sensation with our body. And is part of the instinctual need for human beings to feel safe with our body and to have an expression, and so that can, if I don't have an expression, don't have like, some form of, a movement where I feel I can be connected, I can feel even angry. Like there's all sorts of emotions of feeling not free, you know, makes me feel contracted and trapped. And obviously that brings onto judgment. If that I feel that the way my body movement violates something or makes me not good, that I need to also go into contracted state. And so I do not be bad. That all can also can bring a lot of tension and also anxiety for the body. And where the holy or you're talking about the holy perfection, is to be in that state of being, of feeling free with the connection of the body, while still being um, accepted socially and being able to feel safe in my own body as well. So that is a dance itself, and it's something that we need to actually explore it. We need to try different things and also not be afraid, and knowing that I'm still good. While I try, I might make mistake along the way, and it is okay. It's about self-forgiveness and compassion. It's a process for me to figure it out. Like anybody else, you try to desire in your heart type, or you're the mind type, you're figuring things out. It's a process. Along that, making mistake is part of the journey. And for one, self-forgiveness is probably one of the hardest thing. That especially something that I know I made a mistake and it impacted someone else. It made them, cause them to be inconvenient or cause them trouble or hardship. Oh, it's so much more than forgiving myself, or I know that for other people. It's like I feel like I'm not worthy. Why did I have to cause trouble for someone else? It's hard for me.
I had the privilege, Yen, I'm wondering if I can even find this to share it with you. But there is a dance company here in Denver who did the Enneagram with dance. And um, it was so amazing when you were talking, it brought me back to the one and how the body wants to move. And there's the resistance between the contracted mind, as you said, and the contracted heart with the body. And the dancer was really trying to demonstrate like the body wanted to flow and move in all these ways, but the mind, the shame in the heart, and the contracted like shoulds in the head, and the journey into that. I'll see if I can find it because I think you would really, really enjoy it. And sadly, she's not repeating. It just takes so much money for her to keep repeating it, but it is amazing. The Enneagram done in dance. It was quite amazing. Lynn, anything you want to add to answer Joyce's question, and then we'll go to Janie's question?
Well, exactly like what the other two said, going back to my thing with the insurance and the billing from my medical thing, boy, I'll tell you the tension that I felt like you're talking about. And I've wondered the same thing because it's happened in the past where mine just like, and I realize it, and I'm trying to calm myself down, and I'm going down, down, and I just can't because it's so wrong. It's so wrong. I have to explode. And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, do that. Why did I do that? Why can't I stop myself from exploding? And so, yes, Joyce, I've had that same question. And it took some time, like I didn't completely explode with this billing department, and yet a little bit. And then I worked on the calming myself down, and I sat there, and in a book I was reading, it brought out from Proverbs, like Gang was talking about, mercy and trust. Mercy and trust. Have mercy on these people that I'm having all this tension toward, and trust that the truth will come out. The real truth, as you like, okay, do I want to, like fight this whole thing, or just go, I have to be able to breathe, it's not worth it. And so, yes, I'm working on it. I'm not there yet. Like I said, I feel it. I know it's there. And sometimes I can stop myself from exploding, and other times I just can't. It's like I have to hang on to that right. And then afterwards feel so, so sorry that I did. And so I'm going to just keep trying to remind myself mercy and truth. So
Thank you.
It's so
Mhm.
beautiful, mercy and truth. We're getting back up to the virtue and the essence there. Thank you. Janie.
Thank you all so much. I think my mom was a one, I'm pretty sure. And I think when she in the reflection period of her life, when she didn't feel like she'd lived up to her expectations, I wonder if that didn't play a role in her illness. Um, I'm not sure how those feelings can come out appropriately, but I think they have to come out. Oh, what else was, oh, and then I had this boss that I think was a one, and nobody liked her because she would go around and show everybody the right way to do things. And for some reason, I always had this incredible empathy for her. Because she was an alkie, so she wasn't very aware, not aware like you all are. She had not figured all this out yet. I think the Enneagram is so super helpful. It certainly has been to me. Either that or I'm just a four and don't know it or something, because I could totally relate. But I have this close friend that is a one that has MS. And you know how like ones do action, and if they can't do the action to make everything really the way, really wonderful for their family and really wonderful for their church and really wonderful for, everyone. And all of a sudden they're just blindsided by this illness. And just, can you give me any ideas about how to help a one come to acceptance that may not even know that they're a one of that in some way? So that they don't, like right now, they can't even feel, like they just are completely shut down, just like blindsided. And they don't want to be a disappointment to their partner or their church, etc.
Big questions.
that is really a good question because we're still working on it. But if I think back to before I knew the Enneagram, again, it would be simple. Simply, try to understand where I'm coming from and, maybe have some empathy for the person that you understand. You understand. And I also can completely understand the connecting with people. It's something throughout my life, different people would say, "Oh, I can't believe that you're friends with so and so. Don't you see this horrible side of them?" Well, yeah, but I also see this wonderful side of them. Can you see this wonderful side of them? And, so for a one, I guess I'm thinking that if somebody, had said to me, you know, you need to think about this. I had a boss who was that way when we were first getting computers. Show how old I am here. When computers were first coming out, right? And I had first learned, I don't even know, what program or whatever it was. And we were switching over, to something new. And he gave me a book because I just want you to read it. And I'm reading this book going, it doesn't make any sense to me. But as soon as I got the computer, then it all fell into place. So it gave me that opportunity to first think about it, because change can be really hard, I think, on ones. Let's switch from here to here. Well, can we do it in a smoother way? But that's my closest suggestion. It's just to maybe help them understand.
Anyone else? Rosemary?
A hard question for me. I think just to see the good in her, I don't know what helps her. You want to help your friend and be acceptance for her. You can help her see that accepting this and making things work. I'm kind of reminded of my dad and all the things we put in place to help him with his mobility. Not that he accepted all of them, but we definitely could make I'm trying to fix things, aren't I? So see, I don't know. I just think that acceptance, seeing her holy perfection of herself, like this is who you are now, this is your new normal, and see the holy perfection of that, and make things work as well as they can be made to work.
Yeah. Seeing her, because that's a big part. Yen,
And I don't
anything?
think culture is very good at seeing things the way they are. Like we're not very good at dealing with death or dealing with the hard things in life. So kind of acknowledging things like that is important.
To ignite what is actually her, if she's a type 1, it's the gift in the one that when they can when they can let go of so much contraction, they naturally just come into that place that's been talked about, the holy perfection. Yen, anything you want to add? Good. Okay.
I just want to say sometimes when I'm listening to a friend, I lay my hands open on my lap like Nancy kind of just did, and that helps me like open and not want to say or fix or give advice, but just open listening. I taught myself that doing spiritual direction. So even if I'm like at a table at coffee and someone's telling, I open my hands under the table and it helps me like, oh, I don't have to say any answers or say any what's to fix. I just have to listen deeply. And the cupped hands really help me listen deeply.
That's a mudra, so there's power in that. That's from, yeah, very powerful. I'm going to use that. I need that more. I have a lot of one in me, and I need to practice asking more questions. Go ahead, Lynn.
To add to that, I recently read a thing that said, what you do is you say, how can I help you with that? Not this is, or what can I do for you at this time? Would you like a cup of tea? Again, going to Sheldon, right? You always comfort them. Can I offer you a cup of tea? Just like you said, the mudra is, being open. What can I do for you at this time that would help comfort you?
Yeah.
Something I learned.
I had a person, point 4, that I chatted with the other day, and she just commented, because I didn't do the open palms, but I did the open palms, Rosemary, in that just listening. And 1 and 4 are connected. So I think the 1, 2, just seeing them, and I was listening to a therapy session. I can send it to you, Jane, but the therapist talked about just having that patience, that quality at 1. Like it could take a long time for the person to see themselves, and just holding the space, keep seeing them, and just letting that mirror of you seeing them help them to see themselves. I don't know. That's just my 2 thoughts. All right, we've got just a couple minutes. Sang or Nina, do either one of you have a question?
I do not, but I enjoyed listening to everyone today.
Great, great. Yeah, they've been awesome. Sang, any last words? All right, maybe he had to step away. Well, I'm gonna just say thank you again to our panelists, Lynn and Rosemary and Yen. Thank you to our audience. It takes us all to be here. Sang says thank you. It's wonderful and heartfelt. And look forward to next week is type 2. And then I do have to, and I don't know that I announced this publicly, but we're going to skip a week because my beloved partner, Paul, is turning 71, and I planned a little vacation for his birthday, but he extended it, which put me into a place where I can't do the Zoom for the 28th. So we're going to push type 3 out to March 7th. And then type 4 will be March 14th. And Sang is going to be on that panel with Katrina and Kelly and David, and they'll wrap us up. If anybody knows a male type 3, we don't have one of those. I couldn't find a male type 1, but you ladies did a fabulous job. I still have time to add one more type. We got 4 messages here. Okay, just thank you and gratitude. So we can still add a male 2 or a male 3. We've got the 4 taken care of. So thank you so much. I'm going to end the recording and